Hey, this is Terry Bean. I'm coming at you with another fun episode of Business Growth Time. Today, we're going to talk about the journey into entrepreneurship with my good friend, Brenda Meller. But way before we get to that, I got to say hello. I got to introduce you to, and I got to have you hear from Janet E. Johnson, where today the E stands for hippopotamus, because I wouldn't have. I don't know. We're talking about so many things.
For Meller, because you called yourself Meller.
Janet E. Meller. I've got the best of all worlds.
If you're listening, you don't know this, but we do this via video, and Terry decided to name himself Janet E. Meller. He's messing around with this.
Nice. I didn't even notice that. That's great.
It's a mashup. I'm just like a producer now. That's what I do.
You could have done like a jeller, like put the words together.
Oh,
Jeller? I don't know, something.
That will be the next one.
Pretty much from now on. Listen, it's we'll have the E joke for people, and then we'll have the listen.
The new,
and then we'll have
for Terry.
Yeah, we'll have the different. Well, Janet, the reality is we share the Zoom thing, and you use it far more than I do, and so now it says Janet E. Johnson every time I log in, and I'm like, are you sure that's who I am? Who I am now.
I do use it up. I probably use it about 3, 4, 5 times a day. Yeah, a lot.
Oh, that's wow. Good for you. That's it. I use it to do
it's
this.
My way of communicating with people. Yeah.
That's good. So speaking of communicating with people, I've known Brenda probably close to 8-10 years, somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right? We met years ago at a social media conference. You were the assistant or the associate vice president of Walsh College, which is a great business college here in the Detroit area. And you were doing really cool stuff, connecting people, helping the youngins find their way, and importantly, the returning students learn deeper into business. And social media kind of became your thing, and LinkedIn became your thing. And you did a great job with all of it. And then one day there was a new sheriff in town, and I don't really know if they just broomed everybody and you were caught up, or you said, I'm leaving and I'm ready to go. But you took the jump into entrepreneurship about a year ago, and you're showing up everywhere, blowing up everywhere. People are like overnight success kind of stuff.
Right, yeah, overnight, right.
Right. It's all of a sudden. I've never done anything. Then I woke up and one day I was on this stage right now. That's
right.
So it's kind of cool to watch. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that journey, how it felt. But before we get into that, let's just kind of tell them the background that I didn't give on you that they probably should know.
Sure. So I guess I've been a marketer all of my career. I chose it in college. Marketing was one of the first classes where I kind of lit up, and everything made sense to me. And over the years, I've been on agency side, corporate side, and I've always kind of thought about what is my next step and how long do you stay at this job before kind of plotting where you go next. And I remember hearing an expression in college, and it was always, it was something along the lines like, you get your first job out of college to have a job. You get your second job to get out of that first job. And you get your third job, which is a job that you really want. So I've always kind of thought about, that as I've moved around, because, in our generation, it's not as common to stay in one place for 20 to 30 years. People kind of look at you and go, why did you stay there that long? So for me, I've moved strategically and always tried to make sure that the next move has always been kind of building on the experience I have, but also an exciting opportunity for the next step. So when I don't know if you know the backstory of this LinkedIn journey too, Terry, but when I joined Walsh, this was 2008, so I kind of hit the proverbial glass ceiling at my former employer. And I said, I'm not going to be moving up anymore here. I want to continue to move up in my career. And I'd been there for about 5 years at that point. And this was 2008. This was the worst time to be thinking of a job if you're anywhere, especially Metro Detroit, all the layoffs and everything that were happening. And I had a family, I had a son, and I could not devote 40, 60 hours a week to searching for a job. So I stepped up my efforts on LinkedIn. I disconnected from my boss and then president of the previous company so they wouldn't see my efforts. And I started just kind of connecting with people. And one day I saw a job posting for the Walsh marketing opportunity and figured out who the hiring manager was, paid the upgrade fee to get an in-mail to him. So that was like the best $30 I've ever spent. And I guess the rest is history. You know, he said that on LinkedIn alone, I think he got 300 to 400 applications, and that was just LinkedIn. That wasn't including what he got through the HR department and what he got through Monster and Hot Jobs and the other boards they were on. But he said mine was the first inquiry he got in from LinkedIn, and we immediately almost started emailing back and forth, set up an interview, I think, the next week. And I always tell people I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it was not for LinkedIn. So I've always felt this need to kind of pay it back and show others how to unlock the power of the network and to use it more successfully. So when I joined Walsh, I was one of these people who I was already kind of leaning into using social networking. And as you recall, back in 2008, Terry, it was still kind of in its infancy then. And people were very apprehensive. I was an anti-Facebook person at the time. Why would I, as a married woman, want to be on Facebook, right? And I had to quickly get over that, embrace it, and then I ramped up the social media communities for the college. And in the beginning, it was managing them myself, doing the hands-on, and then over time, it was overseeing a team and sometimes outsourcing some parts of it. So all of that, I guess it was a bit of knack and a bit of, having an interest and leaning in and helping and sharing others. So it started off with the social media management, and then I started blogging. From time to time, I would ask to do webinars or speaking engagements, and I had this side hustle thing going in the background for a while. And then, one day the clouds parted, the universe nudged me forward, and I had an opportunity to think about where did I want to go next. I was interviewing for my next full-time position. I started getting approached from people in my network who were looking for help, and they said, hey, since you have some time, can you help us out with marketing, or can you help us with social media, or can you help our team with LinkedIn? And I started kind of looking at that more as it was really interesting. And for me, the challenge of finding a different job rather was finding something that was just as rewarding and fulfilling. It had been such a great experience, as you talked about there at Walsh, Jerry, and I didn't want to settle for something in my next career path. So to me, the LinkedIn, the consulting, everything I was doing was more exciting than the interviews I was going on. And I decided to stop interviewing. And I was sharing this story with Janet earlier. I stopped interviewing, and my husband actually got mad at me when he kind of figured out I wasn't interviewing anymore. And we had a couple of good heart-to-hearts there, and I'd always supported him in his careers and changes. So I kind of asked him to support me as well. And there was a lot of potential, and I said, if this doesn't work, I will stop doing this and I will go back and find a job. But right now there's just so much opportunity, and I love what I'm doing. My clients love me. I'm getting referrals. So I want to see where this goes. So really for me, that's kind of where I'm at and where I'm going right now.
What do you think of that, Janet E. Johnson?
Well, I think it's, I think everybody needs to learn from this, like taking the leap. You did it in a very strategic way. You had that idea that you wanted to do it, and you already started some things on the side before you made that jump, versus just going, I'm going to become a social media manager. I mean,
right.
There's a lot of that out there right now. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go get a job. I'm going to be a social media manager, So I think the way you did it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It is. It's kind of cool. It was, it was intentional, but almost forced upon you simultaneously. And I think what it really displays is how important it is for us to be open to opportunity, right? So often we don't hear it knock. We don't open the door if we hear it. We don't walk through the door if we hear it and open it. We figure out ways to shy away from or back down. Listen, entrepreneurship, it takes a strong stomach. It takes a lot of guts. We've had this conversation on the show a few times. So kudos to you. And how long was it before Chris was like, you know what? I was kind of wrong about that.
Well, he never admits he was wrong. He just said
Typical
he was
guy. Sorry.
So these are this is the crazy thing. Like everybody that I came across, and people like you, Terry, and everybody, they're like, you can do this, and this totally, and I even had people in the years leading up to this saying, you could probably do this on the side. Like, this is a real business. And I said, I always told those people they were crazy. And of course, now I have to come back and tell them you were right. Actually, this is a lot of fun. And But in the beginning, it was the only people that, and I don't even say didn't support me or didn't believe in me, but the only people that were nervous about it were my dad, my husband, and my mother-in-law. Everybody else said, this is brilliant, you're going to be a success. And when they heard I made the leap, it was, there was some people that kind of thought, well, this was something you just left there and did this on your own. And, yeah, I did make the choice to leave when I did, but the circumstances leading up to it maybe weren't the path that I had anticipated. And I've always been a big believer that you are in control of your destiny and your path. You cannot control the circumstances that you're given, but you can control what you do given those circumstances. And, I've even kind of blogged about this. I'm like, the desk that your employer assigns to you is not your desk. That is their desk that you are assigned to while you work there. That computer is their computer. That email address is their email address that is assigned to you. So unless you have an employer that says, I'm going to guarantee your employment and guarantee your paycheck, and you know what that path looks like, you always got to be thinking about what's next and what's in the background if this doesn't work out the way that you had intended. At what point do you think about moving on and making that change on your own?
Coming back to where you made the changes, you said, were you always thinking job mentality after college? Like that's one thing that, it's sounding like this is just, and that's how I was. I went to school, got good grades, thought I was going to be a teacher. That's my degree. And I was going to have that job, and I never even thought about entrepreneurship. So I think that would be something I'd like to, that I'd like to hear your point of view on the world of entrepreneurship, and if you had even thought that before.
Yeah, I think, probably the first time I really thought about it, and it was always in the back of my mind, this would be something cool to do. Never really thought it could be possible. I knew people who were entrepreneurs, and I knew people who were independent consultants, but I was never in that category. I was always in the job category. I got good grades throughout school. I went away to college. I got my first job. I did everything that you were supposed to do in the order that you did. And even, at Walsh, I went through an executive leadership program. I got my graduate degree there. I did everything. I tried to bring all the learnings I had from my degree into the leadership discussions and meetings and strategies. I did everything I was supposed to do. And at some point, and I had this with the previous employer as well, I started hitting a point where it's not a fit anymore. It's beyond what I can control. Ultimately, it's their company and their organization that they're driving forward. And I think it does take a special person to be an entrepreneur to go on your own. But for me, it was more appealing to work on my own, to be in charge of my own path and destiny, than it was leaving that destiny up to someone else. This is the second time I'd been through this process of a career transition that was not made by choice. And I know I can control my clients. I can control my business growth. I can hustle. I can network. I can meet people. I control how fast or how slow I go in this direction. I think in some business climates, there's a question mark, how much can you control? And really you are at the mercy of some of these organizations and the industries based on what they're going through. So, probably the inkling was started when I started getting active in social media, but it was really just, I was blogging to supplement the work I was doing, and the public speaking in the beginning I was doing mainly free and unpaid. I would do it as a representative of the college, and often I would bring somebody with me to talk about the degree programs. And then over time I would have some of the for-profit corporations ask me to come and speak, and I would say, I'll do it for free if I can bring somebody from admissions with me to do their pitch, or you can pay me, I'll take the day off work and I'll come and speak. And most of the corporations would say, we don't want a sales pitch, we'll pay you. So I had an agreement with, the HR, and then my manager knew about it at the time. And I set up my LLC, and I said, well, let's just see where this goes. And it was more when opportunities approached me. It was not me pitching them out or seeking those opportunities. But I think I knew at the time there was opportunity there and there was potential there. But it was never, it really probably wasn't until, it was probably roughly a year ago now where I really seriously started to thinking that I could do this on my own. And then I started thinking about what that path might look like and what would it take for me to be financially comfortable to stay on this path. Because you hear the horror stories of all these people too that will go and start their business, and run themselves into debt and into the ground within a year or less. And I could not do that. I was the breadwinner in my family. We were on my benefits, and I couldn't do that. So we needed to know that there was potential for this to be a long-term opportunity, not just something as a hobby on the side.
Yeah, it's really hard to make a living when you're playing business. You have to decide to be in it and try and win it. So did you get some severance time from Walsh when you made that decision, or was it?
I was on hiatus for a few months, I'll say.
Okay, we'll call it hiatus.
Yeah, I like saying I was on hiatus. But I never really stayed home. I think there was maybe a day or two where I really was home, and this was in the summer, and I had some time with the kids. But it was back to school, within a few weeks after that. So I got to walk them to school the first day. I think I made cookies the second day. So I did the mom thing, like fully leaned into the mom thing for a while. And then I became a professional networker. I signed up for every event I could, and there was a couple conferences where I had planned to attend, and then I started to be a little bit more budget conscious. So I reached out to the organizations and said, I'm not sure if I can afford the ticket, but do you need any volunteers to help? And there was one, it was the Digital Marketing Summit last year. And they said, yeah, come and work at the front table for us and you'll get a free ticket to the event. And it was great because I got to network with a lot of marketing and digital professionals in Metro Detroit at the registration table, but they were quick conversations. So, and some of those ended up turning into lunch appointments and coffee appointments and whatnot. But I never sat at home, and I threw myself, and I just kept active and kept out there. And a lot of those conversations turned into referral opportunities, or people that were supporting my business when I fully launched it.
And you've got some good support and some great interns. Let's talk about the intern career first.
So I created the Meller Marketing Interns, and it was in the beginning, it was really just me kind of poking fun at the fact that I'm now independently employed. And I would say the Meller Marketing Interns are helping me with this project today, or, they would send me a picture of a mug that would say World's Best Interns and say they wanted this. And there was another speaking engagement where it was a friend, and they didn't have a budget, so she gave me a pie as payment. Perfect. And I posted saying, the Meller Marketing Interns want some pie, and I commented that they didn't do the presentation, so they shouldn't get any pie. And it was just fun. It was joking. People that knew me well knew I was just joking. And sometimes people would say, well, those are your kids, right? The Meller Marketing Interns are just your kids. And the people that didn't know me well, but were watching my business, would reach out and say, did you actually hire interns? Like, wow, your business is really growing if you're already hiring interns at this point. And I'm now at a point where I actually do have a job posting pulled together, and I am going to be hiring my first intern. I do have a couple of stay-at-home moms who are independent consultants helping me with some social media and some marketing work on the side. So the growth is happening. But in the beginning, the interns were just more of my brand personality and kind of showcasing my creativity and having some fun with this. And I had managed interns several times throughout the year, so I kind of knew what the work was looking like and what the questions coming back and kind of that personality of that age group. So I kind of brought that in. But so they don't really exist yet, but they will soon.
That's funny. That's good.
Do you ever have any luck getting your kids involved in your business, Janet? I know you had, Joel was doing a TNT Joel for a little while as a YouTube channel, but are they?
He's the one that takes after me more than, and the older one can't, I've learned he can't do things on his own. Like he is not meant to be self-employed. What to do. So he's actually now taking more after Jeff because he's out being a carpenter at this point. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. So he's almost 20, so he's older. But there's still hope for my 14-year-old. Yeah, but take after, do the technology thing. I'm always pushing him, do the technology thing. But yeah.
Brenda, you talked about a really important aspect of business, and especially when you're starting out in a small business, and it's getting referrals, right? And I know step one in getting referrals is letting people know you want them and what a good referral looks like. At least that's what I think step one is. Yeah. maybe you have a different step one or some advice on what you've done to actually earn referrals, because I think people need to learn how to get more of those.
Sure.
Sure. So I guess my perspective has always been, I'm a marketer. I always tell people I'm not a good salesperson, but I understand marketing. And even with the clients that I'm working with, when I'm doing a proposal, I'll let them know I'm not overly aggressive. So if you want to work with me, let me know. I'll check in, but I'm not going to push you for that close. And I guess I've taken that same approach to networking too. So I always think about, if I'm trying to leverage my network to get referrals, I want to pay it forward to them first. I'm a big believer in the whole concept of social media karma. And I know you are as well, Terry. It's really more about helping my network, giving them tips, giving them resources, and every now and again working in something that says, hey, and keep me in mind if you need some help in this area. But more often than not, when I do posts on social media, I talk about people in my network, or I share social media tips or LinkedIn tips or advice, and then try to engage with my community and say, what do you think? Or, what would you add to this list type of thing. And on social media, I've started a couple different post series. And Tuesday, I now do on LinkedIn, I do a Take Action Tuesday, where every Tuesday I'll say, hey, are you hiring somebody in your network? If so, reply to this thread below and tell us what you're looking for. And if you're in career transition and actively seeking an opportunity, reply below and tell us what you're looking for. And I've done this, I think, for 3 or 4 weeks now, and I know I've had at least one connection that's been made from that, and I've had other people that have, let others know know what they're looking for, or use it as a platform to promote some of those opportunities they have. On Friday, I started doing a Friday Shout series, and I think I tagged you in one of those already, if I'm not mistaken, Terry, earlier on.
Yep.
So it's kind of, a spin-off of the Follow Friday. And it was an idea I got from, it's a fellow LinkedIn expert, if you will. He's based in the UK. He's actually a technical copywriter. And he featured me in a Friday Shout once upon a time. And he's got a huge network. And I got a surge of profile views on LinkedIn and invitations from new people. And his was just, he was kind of doing the same thing I do, leveraging the power of your broad network to help shine the spotlight on someone else. So I started doing that same series every Friday, and I'm now kind of keeping my phone. I keep a list of who do I want to feature in the future, and paying it forward, helping people. That brings visibility back to me. That's going on their timeline. They're seeing that, and people feel indebted to you. You're paying it forward. You're helping them. But I'm not doing this to get leads and referrals. I'm doing this really because I want to help other people. But what I found is when I'm starting to see, leads drying up a little bit, I kind of look at what I'm doing on social media, and I found that I maybe haven't been focusing as much on my network as I have on myself. And when I redirect that back to my network, the leads and referrals start to come back in again.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. It's the law of reciprocity and the law of generosity, right? I mean,
There you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny because we did Follow Friday for years on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Everybody was. Yeah.
And then it's the same concept. But
There was Fan Page Friday on Facebook. Yep. It's like,
number 7, I think it was shine the light on others, and that's just what you have to do, because, like you said, it reflects back on you. And it's really
yeah, and people do it, and I think that when you shine the light on them, they feel that they owe something back, and they're going to pay more attention to your posts. I think in general, people on social media, it's me. I'm going out there and posting, and then I'm seeing who's responding to it. Why are people liking this? Well, let's remember the word is social media, so there should be some socialization that's part of it, right? And we should be paying as much attention, if not more attention, to what our network is talking about than we are trying to figure out how to use it for ourselves. So I always encourage people, if you're spending a little bit of time on social media, the first thing that you do on every network before you post about yourself, you pay it forward. You look and see what people are talking about, liking things, commenting with 5 or more words, which helps the algorithm. And
say that
then
again, that's huge.
Okay.
That's like telling people to turn the camera this way when they're taking a video. That's huge.
Terry, where have you been? It's now this way. Thanks.
Depends on the platform, right? Instagram's back to that. Jerks, why can't they keep it the same? No, 5 words or more. Why?
So 5 words or more, and this is I've heard other networks, like I think on Instagram, I've heard 4 or more words, but if you use 5, you're safe. So basically there's an algorithm that runs on each of the social networks that says, which of these posts are we going to keep out in the homepage feed longer, kind of hanging up in the homepage feed. And, their goal is basically to make it a popularity contest. The posts that get the highest level of engagement are going to sit out in the homepage feed longer. If you post something and it gets no engagement, it quickly falls down and gets buried and people don't see it. So my kind of experience with it is if you post something, then I'll just use LinkedIn as an example. If you post something on LinkedIn, and if you post something, Terry, and I say great post, LinkedIn says, meh, not really that interesting. But if I say, great post, Terry, hope you're doing well, great post, Terry, hope you are doing well. So what is that, 7 words? Mm-hmm. LinkedIn says, oh, people are talking about this, so let's keep this up a little bit longer. And let's say then you reply back to me and you say, glad you found it helpful, Brenda. So that's 6 words, I think. It's going to say there's some conversation happening. Let's keep this kind of going out here. Now you're starting to get your post shown to more LinkedIn users. And it's kind of a concept I like to refer to as the trade show effect. So when you go to a trade show, you walk around, there's a bunch of vendor tables and they're all empty and there's salespeople that are just desperate for someone to talk to. But then you see that one table and there may be 2 to 3 to 5 to 20 people around the table. And you're like, what are they looking at over there? What's happening over there? And then you start to get people going to your table because other people are there, that crowd mentality. The same thing happens on social media. So once you get a post that starts to get a lot of engagement, it brings more people to see what are they talking about. And then they start chiming in. And I always tell people I treat comments that you're given on social media like people are giving you a gift. And when you get a gift, you should send a thank you note. So that thank you note should be in the same format, 5 or more words. So keep it going. Start the post with a comment of 5 or more words and keep the conversation going. And it really helps with your engagement.
We talk about it from time to time, right? The other thing is to go back, right? And space those comments out. Maybe it's later in the day or the next day or the next day, because that keeps that comment and that content top of feed.
Yeah. Kind of reinvigorates it and holds it out there a little bit longer for sure.
It's all just a game.
Oh, damn. So you might as well know how to play.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Well, it's formulas, and I don't know that anyone has a playbook of the algorithms by network.
It changes every time you turn around, so.
It changes. I did see somebody break it down once where they did kind of a point system, and they said a like is worth 1.5 points, and a comment of so many words is worth 5 points. But then the interesting thing is a share was actually a lower point value, because when you share, you're restarting the counter on your own feed. Which you would think a share is substantial. It's worthy enough.
Substantial. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of, it's a 2 different, because now you're sharing in front of but I have noticed if you share to your, like if I share something to my personal profile,
right,
pretty low engagement on that, because shares just don't have as much power as
commenting within the thread
post. Yeah, or a direct post itself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we can talk all day about this kind of stuff.
Right.
After I'm done sharing, it's over. I'm not sharing anything else. Done. Sorry, people.
I've done that in the game. I've done where I post over here and I post over there. I'm like, well, if I hit the share button, people aren't going to see it as much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
It is, because you think about it. I think it was Carrie Raining, Janine. I can't remember how we pronounce it.
Oh, Carrie Yenig.
Yenig, who said if you post something on your Facebook page and then you come back and like it as your profile and then share it as your profile, right? It super spiked engagement. Now this is 2 years ago,
right?
That conversation, and it absolutely was mind-bendingly effective,
right? I tell my clients too. I'm like, the algorithms don't know if it's an employee or if it's a fan, somebody off the street. So I always encourage my clients when I do social media management, I provide a daily email to them saying, here's what we posted today. So please go out, comment with 5 or more words, or consider sharing this on your timeline. And that sometimes helps to jumpstart the engagement from happening. And from there, then other people see it, friends and family and business connections and whatnot. And it really can start to kind of jumpstart those efforts, especially if you don't have a large following yet.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Now, I'd like to finish up with asking you a little more. We've talked about your journey, but what is exactly, Terry knows because Terry knows you, but our audience doesn't. Like, what exactly can you do to help a client, or what typically do you do in business?
Sure. So I always tell people my short description, Meller Marketing, I help people and businesses with marketing and social media, and I specialize in LinkedIn. So when I say people and businesses, that's everything from, on the people side, it's individual, could be job seekers, people in career transition. It could be individuals who are doing the side hustle, thinking about starting their own consulting business and want to keep a low profile with their employer while they ramp up their social media, or entrepreneurs and even small business owners who are already well established. Their business is running pretty well, but they really don't know where to start with social media or marketing. And on the business side, it's usually, organizations that have a need for marketing or social media and either don't have the depth of knowledge in-house yet to do it on their own. Perhaps they're not at a point yet where they can hire a marketing director, but they have been cobbling together some efforts, whether it's email or direct mail or social media and other avenues. And they need somebody to kind of come in and tidy things up for them and put more structure and actually put a strategy in place, as opposed to being kind of, non-directed, just kind of going with the latest shiny object and what they're seeing and approached with. So, and some of my clients they have, maybe a marketing director or marketing person in-house, but they don't have the depth of knowledge in marketing or social media. And they need somebody to kind of come help supplement that on a part-time basis. So, it's a range of everything really, but I don't go deep into social media advertising, and I don't do website design, but I do focus on kind of the basics of marketing and establishing social media. And on the LinkedIn side, certainly it's how to optimize your social media, whether you're using LinkedIn as a job seeker or as a career professional. And I started doing a lot more coaching sessions with executives as well. So there's this category of people on LinkedIn I will refer to as experience rich and tech averse, or they've grown up with a different system of business development and management, and now they're in a world of LinkedIn where they don't want to post the wrong thing or violate the form of etiquette that exists on social media. So instead of doing something the wrong way, they choose not to do anything, and then they know there's opportunities that they're missing out on. So when I'm doing training, I always do it very hands-on, part lecture, part instruction, but part of it is I walk around the room and say, okay, let's practice doing this now. And even though they might be shaking their head saying they're doing it, I'll walk to their computer and they're on the wrong screen. And they don't want to raise their hand and say, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I've always approached kind of training from a judgment-free zone. The questions, I always tell my clients, the questions you ask somebody else in the room probably has that same question and they're just afraid to speak up. So, let's make it approachable and meaningful for you.
Cool. Now, tell us how people can get a hold of you. Where I'm going to guess. Wait, let me just guess. The best place is probably LinkedIn.
Yeah. So what I say is, if you're going to hire anybody to do social media marketing for you or whatever platform it is, you should look them up on that platform. Certainly, you can go to my website, mellermarketing.com. There's logos and links, but you could easily look up Meller Marketing on any of the major platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the YouTube channel. I've even reserved a Glassdoor account for my company, Meller Marketing. And I don't know if you guys both know, Glassdoor is the site that employees will post anonymous comments about their employer. And I always say I'd rather create the conversation that I want people to see about me, as opposed to letting potential employees see conversations from former employees about your organization, and that be the only thing that they see. So even though I'm not at a point where I have employees on staff yet, I will someday. So I've reserved and kind of created my Glassdoor presence for Meller Marketing with the hopes of growing that in the future.
That's a good side tip.
The interns are posting now. It's out there. A nice piece of pie, they'll write something sweet.
Right, there you go.
Awesome. Terry, any last
Yeah, one last piece, right? And we've mentioned pie 3 times, right? And it's not even without its own little strategy. So, You've got some really good advice about why you do that, and you blessed Motor City Connect with that whole conversation in August, and I still appreciate that. Share that idea real quick. Why do I talk about paddleboarding? Why do you talk about
Right. Well, sure. So whenever I do presentations or talks, I kind of tell people a little bit about myself, who I am as a person as well. And I think it helps to connect us, and it removes kind of that salesman aura that you have coming in. So I tell people a bit about my background, why I'm qualified to speak to them. But I also say, in addition to my family and my job, I love coffee, pie, and chocolate. And I've got my coffee here today. I've even got my pumpkin spice shirt on this morning too. But coffee, pie, and chocolate. So coffee is a very common, drink in business. And if you go to my LinkedIn, I have a coffee cup emoji next to my name on there. Chocolate is fairly common too. A lot of chocolate lovers out there. But pie is not as prevalent as some of the other things that are out there. And there's people out there, the bacon lovers. You know who they are. And there's the cupcake people. There's not a lot of the pie people that are out there. So, I really do love pie. Sometimes I talk myself through it and I'm like, do I really love it? Or is I just love the concept that nobody else is owning this? But then I shared the story at Motor City Connect. I have an earlier memory of my mom and I baking this pie for the Michigan State Fair. And I'm not a person who loves sweets. I don't like cake icing, and it's just too sugary for me.
I would eat that straight and leave the cake.
Would you see? I just I'd rather not eat sugar. And I remember being, at work, and they have the anniversary cakes or the retirement cakes or the birthday cakes. And I remember at one point, as an adult, we have to be more careful about the calories we're putting in ourselves. Right?
Totally. When you're talking about this, I gave up coffee recently. So
there you go. So you pick and choose the things you don't want. And I said, I don't like cake, so I'm not going to eat cake anymore. But people would bring in pie, and I'm like, I like pie, And now I started to incorporate it into presentations, even to the point where, like I did at Terry's group, I bring pie with me, and I'll raffle that off, or that'll be a prize. And it's just this uniter of people, and it's this fun item that it's not related to my business. It is a part of my personality, and I light up when I talk about it. So it helps to kind of break through the clutter and make me more memorable. And now I get to the point where, people will be sending me pie jokes, or they'll see pie or Grand Traverse Pie having a special, and they'll send me the coupons. And now that we're getting into the fall season, people are starting to send me pie memes.
Apple pies and pumpkin pies.
Right.
Yep.
So I made a hashtag social media pie, and now people sometimes will use that when I'm presenting at events, and it's just fun. I mean, like I said, Terry, for you, it's the paddleboarding. Like, figure out something you're passionate about that is completely unrelated to your business, and think about how you can weave that into your marketing efforts, because it helps me to make you more memorable, and it can also help you to connect with people in a different way.
So I should come in on my rollerblades in my next speaking gig.
There you go.
Nailed it. Absolutely.
That's great.
All right, Janet. Where can they find us, Janet E. Johnson?
This episode and all past episodes are at businessgrowthtime.com/blog. And then you can also find us and join our group on Facebook, and that's businessgrowthtime.xyz, or just search us inside of Facebook and you will find that group.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Brenda. This was great information for all those looking to, having that little bit of fear and going, should I make that jump? I think this is a great segue for them to listen to, so that they can learn how to do that.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I had a blast, and always a pleasure. I've heard great things about the show, and happy to have been a part of it.
Yeah, awesome, Brenda. Thank you.
See you soon.